Today we're going to be talking about everything that's wrong with Jim Bob Duggar, how he lied at the stand to protect Josh, all of the weird and creepy things that he believes and stands for, the things he was caught doing or saying by production crew, his own son-in-law and daughter exposing him. This video is going to cover some topics that may be disturbing to some viewers, so please watch at your own discretion. I have a lot of videos on the Duggars talking about their weird family dynamic, the IBLP movement that they follow, as well as some disturbing and dangerous beliefs that they have. And I have another one for you guys today, and this video is going to be all about Jim Bob Duggar. I actually wanted to do this video a while back and told you guys I was working on it, but my pregnancy fatigue got in the way entirely and it got pushed back. But I had actually been working on this video while Jim Bob was trying to run for state senate in the state of Arkansas. I feel like all of these things are still very important to talk about, even though he lost with flying colors. I still think it's interesting, the fact that he thought he could run for state senate, which, I mean, in Arkansas, part of me wondered if maybe he would actually get it. I know he's got a lot of connections here, but people were rightfully upset about Jim Bob running for state senate, specifically because he was doing it during his oldest son Josh's trial for CP. Not only was it during this trial, but Jim Bob appeared rather supportive during it and uncooperative when it came to saying anything against his son, but he still had the audacity to run. He wrote in a statement on his Facebook page, "I have never wavered nor changed." Although his old website said that he was for the death penalty for incest, yet continues to protect his son who essayed his daughters. During this campaign, he was for reopening the state of Arkansas during a global pandemic, calling the shutdowns in March of 2020 unconstitutional. Rightfully so, he lost this campaign, placing third with around 15% of the votes. I have people that leave me comments all the time that defend these two people, and by these two people I mean Jim Bob and Michelle, but their own daughter and son-in-law are coming out and saying things about them themselves, so don't tell me not to talk about it. You know, I'm really glad that Jill and Derek have gotten a voice and that they have been so public about everything that they've experienced and that they're finally speaking out. Throughout the years, Derek has exposed some really disturbing things on his social media about how, you know, Jim Bob steals money from the children that were on the show 19 Kids and Counting. Jill got paid essentially minimum wage to be on the show. Like, she might as well have been working at McDonald's because that's how her own dad was paying her. So he was like stealing his own children's money. And then the fact that Derek came out and was saying that he was manipulative and that he was controlling. He also said that Jim Bob was verbally abusive and that he was extremely defensive, and then also a liar. This was how Derek described him when he was running to be state senate, was, "Do you want somebody that is like this in this position?" Jim Bob would come out to say that cancel culture doesn't want him involved in politics, completely detracting or attempting to detract from the severity of why people don't want him involved in anything political. And it's not just because of the things that Derek said after he began running. He didn't protect his own children from the person that hurt them. He would steal his children's money from what they earned on their TV show, because trust me, if that show was called Jim Bob and Counting, nobody would watch it. Like, they're watching it because you have a large family, not because of you, so you definitely shouldn't get the biggest check. And I mean, he seemed to be very supportive of Josh in the court, hugging Josh, looked like he was there as a supporter of him. I'm gonna send you guys to this video that I did that was about their belief in radical forgiveness. So I went down the rabbit hole of trying to learn about what radical forgiveness meant, and I didn't realize how crazy it was going to be. We're gonna be discussing the Duggar's belief in radical forgiveness, and I'm gonna tell you guys what that is, because it's not just normal forgiving people. You guys need to go watch it. I'm gonna link it up there, and I'm also gonna have it down below, because this is why I believe that he's still supported by his family. And here's the thing, like, I understand, like, when you birth a child, raise a child, you're gonna love them probably no matter what, but there's a difference in loving them and supporting them for doing something terrible. The thing that really bothers me is that it's always looked like Josh was like the golden child to them, and I can't say that he was for a fact. It is always really appeared that way. He constantly has his family supporting him and backing him, no matter the severity of the situation. A good example of this is that during the Megyn Kelly interview, Jim Bob was talking about how they just poured everything into Josh after what he had done. And all I could keep thinking was, shouldn't you have poured everything into your daughters that were probably really confused about what they happened to them, and not pour everything into the person that hurt them?
We watched him like all the time. I took him to work with me, and he just, we just poured our life into him.
Like I've said before, like, it's a good thing that the law has stepped in to take care of the situation, because if it was ever just up to the Duggar family to make sure that things were taken care of, all they would have done was send Josh away to another camp situation to go build some buildings and pray to Jesus, and then let him back in around his family. It's really sick, and sometimes I don't think people understand just how sick and twisted this situation is. Like I said, I still get comments from people where they don't get it. Like, they're just like, you need to stop talking about this family. Why are you going so hard at them? You're not understanding how dangerous this behavior is, because God forbid anybody else in their family ends up like their brother. But if they did, we know from past behavior that their parents would protect them. And the problem with this is that there's so much protection going on for the person who's done the terrible thing. There's no protection going on for the kids that are being affected by it. And again, that also brings me back to IBLP. There are so many booklets and things within IBLP that are the reason why they're like this, because it tells you to forgive the person no matter what they've done, and that there are absolutely no victims, and victims actually bring these things onto themselves. Just the audacity that he had to run for state senate in the middle of his son being on trial for horrific things, and also the fact that in his policies he's for the death penalty, but when it comes to his own son, he's gonna just be supportive of him anyway. Radical forgiveness. It's weird. It's like, you believe in radical forgiveness, but you also believe in the death penalty in your political policies. Which is it? And another thing about Jim Bob is that he literally lied out of his teeth about what happened to his daughters when Josh was 14 and 15 years old. He made it sound so much less severe. There was a testimony from Jib and Bobby Holt, and that revealed that what actually had happened inside of the Duggar family home was far more extensive than what Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar had claimed during this 2015 interview with Megyn Kelly. They revealed that the incidents were widespread and that Josh had done it inappropriately multiple times. Also, that Jim Bob and Michelle had claimed that his victims were unaware that anything had happened to them, which was also not true. The former state trooper said that Jim Bob actually had lied to him about what he had done. To make it even worse, there were so many other things that he had done to the girl that was younger than the age of 5. Yet in these Megyn Kelly clips, they're trying to make it sound like it was one thing, when it was actually a lot more than that. Josh had also confessed that he had been doing it since he was 12 years old. You know, I had went over that interview that they had had with Megyn Kelly, where they just continuously tried to make it sound like it was just over the close. They made it sound like it could have been worse. And the fact that they kept trying to do that and reiterate that it wasn't that bad. During Jim Bob's testimony, he said that he couldn't remember the details of Josh's admissions. The court found Mr. Duggar's selective lapse in memory to not be credible. He was obviously reluctant to testify against his son. Him pretending to not remember, and then that interview with Megyn Kelly where he completely neglected to say what actually ended up happening. And then him being reluctant to testify against him, acting as though he didn't remember what really happened, shows that in the court during Josh's trial that Jim Bob continued to try and protect Josh. It's not about the truth. It's not about what really happened. It's about, what can I not say to protect my son? That's all it's about. He continued to take issue with the police report that was obtained by In Touch about what he had done to his sister. He called it a juvenile record and a sealed case. He later said that he didn't remember when he was asked about the report. He called it tabloid information. After prosecutors asked him to read a copy of the report, Jim Bob said, "I'm not going to do that," but ultimately said his memory was not jogged by reading the report in his head. So they're trying to get him to remember what was in the report because he's claiming he doesn't remember, but he's refusing to read it, saying it won't help me remember anyway. You just don't want to talk about it. He said, for you guys to use a tabloid to bring it back up is very unprofessional. He's referring to the police report for what Josh did to his sisters as a tabloid. The youngest person that was affected by Josh's actions was 5 years old, and you're gonna call that police report a tabloid. It's also important to bring up that Jim Bob and Michelle had released this statement. It said, "It is our prayer that the truth, no matter what it is, will come to light and that this will all be resolved in a timely manner. We love Josh and Anna and continue to pray for their family." That is such a BS statement, because when it came to Jim Bob needing to tell the truth, he just acted like he didn't remember the truth and continued to be argumentative, and he refused to say anything that would make Josh look bad for what he did. It's funny that it's like, it's our prayer that the truth will come out when you have the truth behind your freaking teeth. You won't say it though. And then Jill and Derek on their blog had come out and said that they were also lied to about what actually had happened. They didn't know the severity of what Josh had done until they were sitting in the court and hearing it for themselves. So the family lied to them about it. That's really bad, because they have a lot of kids behind those doors that they're lying to. Not to mention, he also allegedly lied to his sister Deanna, who made an Instagram post that she ended up deleting. This Instagram post said that she was told a completely different story about a certain family member. "I saw the truth on my local news. So sad." Now, it was unclear if she was talking about what Josh had done, but the fact that she later deleted it, it was kind of obvious. And also, Jim Holt posted on his Facebook page on election day, "I can say this, and it hurts me to say, Jim Bob Duggar lied to me about the truth of his son when asking to court our daughter. It was clear he perjured himself on the witness stand." How does your belief system make it okay for you to be a liar? Like, is that somewhere in your IBLP booklet? And a lot of people have been questioning who has been paying for Josh's legal fees, and some people seem to think that it is Jim Bob, but obviously this is all alleged. The reason why people think this is because of the fact that when Josh was living with that couple, separated from Anna and his children before he got put in jail after the trial, Jim Bob actually had a fence built for him to keep people out. Keep in mind, he also believes and regurgitates teachings by Bill Gothard, who was accused by multiple women, a lot of women, of SA. I also want to throw in this clip here where Jim Bob was speaking out against porn addiction, and he said that how you get over that addiction is to fast and pray. So I wonder if that's what he told Josh as well.
And so if you've seen things on the internet, if you've, you know, just if you've been captivated by this stuff, okay, if you become a slave to this, then there's several things I would encourage you. First off, it'd be good to fast for at least one day. Okay, if all of your senses are so like out of control, if you fast for a day or two or three, that will get your drives a lot of times back in where they need to be.
I can't help but wonder, you know, if that's also the advice that he gave his son for what he did. Some of the things that I want to discuss a little bit more thoroughly in today's video, I've talked about in previous videos, and we've discussed the weirdness of. For instance, how he side hugs his daughters. It's something about that is just so strange to me, that you think that there's something wrong with hugging your daughter, that you're even thinking about body parts being pushed against each other. Like, I feel like if a grown-ass man thinks there's something weird or wrong about giving a front hug, which is literally just a hug, it's something normal people do, because he's thinking about things he shouldn't be with your own children, that's red flag number one with Jim Bob that we've talked about before. And it really reminded me of a previous situation that I had had where my ex had moved in with his dad and his stepmom. At the time I didn't have a vehicle, so I would have to take rides from his mom and his stepdad. But when he moved in with his dad and his stepmom, I then needed a ride from them to go to my boyfriend's football games. Well, his dad would only let me ride with him to his football games if his stepmom was there, because it was inappropriate for me to be with him without her. I was just a young teenage girl that wanted to go watch my boyfriend play sports, and they made it into this weird, inappropriate thing, like I was some grown woman, like sitting hip to hip with his dad. It reminded me of that situation where it's like the things they're thinking in their mind, these children aren't thinking anything of that, and the fact that you are, what is wrong with you? It's very weird. I don't even think the brothers and the sisters can front hug. And then in teaching your kids that, you're teaching them to also think that way. You're teaching your sons to think that way when they hug their sisters, and you're teaching daughters that men are thinking dirty thoughts when they give them hugs. There have been some people that have worked for the Duggar family on the production team for their TLC shows, and some of the things that they have shared are incredibly disturbing. Another crew member from the first season of the show told a story about Michelle Duggar finding out that one of the crew members was gay. When Michelle found this out, she was incredibly angry and allegedly unleashed on a producer, which isn't really hard to believe because there are a lot of things out there about Michelle's temper issue. This employee was removed from the set and transferred to another production. This story comes from somebody's cousin's husband that used to work for the Duggar production. He has many stories about this family, but one that particularly strikes me as terrible is when one of the older Duggar boys was caught playing with himself. He said that one of his brothers had told on him for being in the bathroom for a few hours one night, worried that he was sick. Well, to see if he really was, Jim Bob walked in. He caught him doing it, and on one of the days the cameras were filming. Jim Bob's screams made the crew run to where they were filming. Immediately they asked him what was wrong. All Jim could reply was, "Idle hands are the devil's playthings." Apparently the whole next day he was supposed to do chores around the house, but Jim Bob had tied his hands together so that doing anything was nearly impossible. It is glaringly obvious that the thoughts that go through Jim Bob Duggar's head are not as pure as he tries to make it sound whenever he's putting these ridiculous rules out there. Like, you're projecting your problems onto everybody else. Every time I do a video about the Duggars, I find out something else about them that just sickens me to my core. If you guys like this video and you would like to see more content like this, give it a thumbs up. That will definitely let me know that you guys want to see more. And also, if you guys would like to follow my second channel, I post videos over there, a lot about being pregnant. Leave me a comment to let me know that you guys liked it, and I will be seeing you guys for another video very soon.